Hello my viewer, welcome to my encouragement channel once again. It's another Saturday that God has given us an opportunity that we may share and we may hear about a few things. I want to thank every one of you who has been following me, who has been liking me, who has been commenting, and especially those who have been subscribing. If you're one of those who have been following me and you have not subscribed, I'm waiting for your subscription and you are most welcome. God bless you so much for your continued support. Today I want to speak about something different from what I've been speaking about, and I want to speak about fear. Fear is a word that many of us don't like being related with it, and many of us don't also want to hear about, but fear is always with us. And there are people who define the word fear as false evidence appearing real. I am not sure whether it is the true meaning, but there are people who say that it is false evidence appearing real. There is some truth in it, and there are so many things that has been talked about fear. I have not researched on about a fear, but I want to talk about fear in general. I also want to talk about fear today, as far as how we see it, how we feel it is concerned. And then my next video, I'll be speaking about fear and how we need to overcome fear or to deal with fear as far as God is concerned. And therefore today we are going to see the godly wisdom in the godly wisdom in a nailing society. Godly wisdom in a nailing society. Anywhere there is ailment, there is fear. Anywhere there is sickness, there is fear. Anywhere there is deficiency of good health, there is fear. And ailment is always related to insufficiency. Ailment is always related into lack. And it is also related into fear. You cannot lack or run into insufficiency without fear. And therefore, those two things are related, and that's what I want to talk about today. There are many types of fear, and there are quite different dimensions of fear. I'll look at a few of them, or we are going to see at a few of them. I'll start by saying that it is not the fear that that God talks about in his word, that the fear of the Lord. It's not the fear of God. Because the word of God in the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes talks about the fear of God, that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And when we talk about godly wisdom, and we are talking of fear, it is not the fear of God. It is the fear of people, fear of things, fear of situations, and the like. That's what I want to speak about. Because the fear of the Lord, if we don't have the fear of the Lord, then we cannot have wisdom. And as the word tells us that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, that is not the fear that I would want us to talk about today. I want us to talk about the other different types of fear that comes in our lives that prevent us from progressing, that prevent us from moving ahead, and really hinder us from advancing. We are going to look at many things that really hinder us. That really brings about fear in our lives. And before we get to that, we see the types of fear that generally attack or evade in our lives. not invade in our lives. One of the types of fear that almost every one of us has or have is the fear of unknown. Fear of unknown can come from within, can come from without. And fear of unknown sometimes is brought by something that you are thinking that is in your subconsciousness that you think is going to happen. It's not there, but you think can happen or it's going to happen. For example, when a baby starts growing and a mother is teaching or showing this baby to grow, there is the fear that this baby may fall as it is trying to grow. That is one fear, but that fear is objective. When a baby comes from that stage of growing, that baby will start walking. And when they are walking, they will go into several places within the homestead, within the house. And if there is fire in the house, the mother will always be cautious. They will be afraid that this child will not get into the fire because they are fearing that they may be burned. If there is boiling water, the mother will be afraid that this child will be burned. If there is a hole outside within the homestead, an open hole, a shimo, the mother will be afraid that when that child walks outside, that child might fall. That is an objective fear. Then there is this fear that this child, when they grow up and they start going to school, the mother is always afraid of very many things. I may not talk about every step of growth of a child, but what I'm trying to say is that there is an objective fear of something that you are anticipating that might happen. And for grown-ups, it's not only because of a child. Even for us grown-ups, there are many things that we get afraid that may happen in our lives. The fear of unknown can come to any one of us while we are thinking, and even when we are when it is in our subconscious of our minds. Like now, for example, when one is not married, they always wish and pray that they may get married. But before they get married, they get afraid, or one get afraid. What kind of man will I get? What kind of a woman will I get? What will become of us after marriage? What will happen? When someone is expectant, when a lady is expectant and they're expecting a child, there is joy in conceiving, there is joy in carrying a pregnancy, but there is that fear in our subconsciousness. We don't know what is going to happen. We are not sure of what is going to happen. There is fear, there is fear that comes. When we give birth to our children, there is still fear. There is always fear in our life. Fear that is brought by the enemy, because fear does not come from God. The word of God tells us in the book of 1 Corinthians that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but he has given us the spirit of love, the spirit of the spirit of love and a sound mind. God has not given us the spirit of fear. But many times we are afraid. When one is working, they are always afraid of something. One may be fearing to be sacked. One can be fearing to be interrogated in one way or the other. One might be fearing their friends. There are many things to fear when someone is working. When one gets retired, or when we get into retirement, there is still fear. After retirement, there is still fear. I mean, it is like we are living in a life of fear. And when we talk about godly wisdom in a kneeling society, it means in our society, wherever we are, everyone, every age, cut across, there is fear. In our churches, in our places of worship, we have fear that has invaded in each and every place of worship. And may the Lord help us so that we can be able to, to overcome the spirit of fear in our lives, so that we may be able to worship the true God in truth and in spirit. In our families, there is fear. Each and every family, there is fear. The husband is fearing the wife is fearing the husband, the children are fearing the parents are fearing the children. And that's why there is a lot of domestic violence today, because kila mtu anajifishia mwingine. There is no transparency. There is a lot of fear. When we go to our places of work, there is fear. Bosses are fearing their employees are fearing their employer, and there is fear everywhere. Colleagues are fearing each other, and there is fear everywhere. When you also think about our families, I may go back to our families. Today, there are so many cases of suicidal. There are so many cases of suicidal, domestic violence. There are so many cases of rape within our family setup. Why are all these things happening? Because there is fear. When there is domestic violence, there is fear in this kind of a thing. When there is rape, there is fear. You find that a father is raping his daughter, and because of fear, he will threaten the girl or the lady, or the daughter, and tell them that they should not tell the mother or anyone. They will be threatened. And because this daughter will not want to be killed because of fear, they will not talk about it. And the child or the daughter will remain stigmatized, traumatized, and she may end up committing suicide. And this girl will remain like that because of fear. That is just a case scenario. There are also other kind of abuse in the family, even where we have drug abuse. Some of our children or young people are turning into drug addiction because of fear. They are not able to face the reality of life, so they want to turn into drug addiction, thinking that that is a solution. That is still fear that will make them turn into that. Also, in our families, we are finding that husbands and wives, sometimes they are not able to solve their problems, and they are turning into divorce and separation because of fear. The wife is fearing the husband might kill them, the husband might abuse them, the husband might do one thing or the other, and vice versa, because it's not only the husbands, even the wives. And therefore, they are turning into separation, leaving the children to suffer. They are turning into a divorce, leaving the children to suffer. And as I had talked earlier in some of my videos, I talked about the effects of separation in a family that affects the children. I may not talk or mention about it today, but I'm just trying to talk about what can fear do, or what is the result of fear, or what can be a product of fear in a family. And we see that fear brings about advancement in a family. Fear brings about not advancement, it hinders advancement in a family. Fear also hinders one from progressing. It also hinders one from growth. And therefore, fear is a negative impact in our family. Also, economically, fear can affect our economy, and it can affect us socially, it can affect us spiritually, and it can affect us in all dimensions of life. I may not be able to explain each and every detail of what the effects of fear, because there are quite a lot of them. But I want to say that fear is not tangible. We all know that fear is not tangible, but it is a state of mind. Fear is a state of mind. One thing that I would want to say, for example, the fear of failure. The fear of failure, because it is one of the types of fear. I had said I'll talk about types of fear, and it's like I may not have all the time to talk about the types, but I've talked about of fear of unknown. I've also talked about objective fear, and there is now the fear of failure, and we also have got the fear of rejection. All those are types of fear. When you think about the fear of failure, if you fail once and fail twice and fail thrice, most likely, anytime you want to do something, you will fear to fail. And there is an Englishman said that you should not give up because of failing. And I think one of the things that anyone should think about in this life is trying. I don't know how to put it, but anytime you try something, there is that energy that comes. Of course, there is a fear and the expectation that comes along with that, but it is good to keep on trying. But most often than not, when you keep on trying most times and fail, you kind of give up. And fear of failure has made so many people miserable. Fear of failure has made so many people poor. Fear of failure has made so many people intimidated. They feel intimidated. Fear of failure has made so many people live life that is not worth themselves. And therefore, we need to know that fear is an obstacle of progress. It is an enemy of success. And the word of God talks about fear in so many times. Next video, I want to talk about fear as far as God is concerned, and what God says about fear. And that's why I have talked about godly wisdom in an ailing society. Because without God, we cannot make it in this society that is full of fear. And fear has caused so many people lose their lives. So many people lose their jobs. So many people lose their relationship. So many people lose opportunities because of fear. May the Lord help us so that we may be able to overcome the spirit of fear in our lives. Even at this time that we are approaching elections, there are so many types of fear that are coming in our lives, that are making us have a lot of anxiety, because we don't know, we have no idea of the eventuality of the elections. But it is good to know that even after elections, we shall have a country, and God is the one who is going to give us a leader. So we don't need to fear. Instead of fear, we need to apply faith in our lives, so that whatever we are trusting God for and whatever we are praying, that God is going to give us an answer. And I want to stop there for today and believe and trust that I will be able to continue next Saturday, whereby we are going to see how we can apply the word of God as far as fear is concerned, and how we can be able to overcome all types of fear in our lives. May God bless you for listening and for watching. Continue subscribing, continue commenting, and let's meet next Saturday, God willing. Bye.